Watch them come. we are on. Hi everyone, welcome to the Polygon Forest. My name is Vin Hill. I am an Ubisoft concept artist, and I am joined by, not Chris, as you can see, we're joined by Sam Webster, who is a designer and also a comic book artist, and we're going to talk about a little bit about him. But welcome, Sam.
Hey man, been a while.
It's been a bit too long, hasn't it? It's for a bit of context. Me and Sam actually went to university together. Like God, how many years ago? Like 2007, like when we first met.
Well, let me work this out. So,
Yep.
graduated at 21, 32 now. So that's, Christ, 11 years.
Yeah.
And then 3 years at uni. So another three onto that. So 14 years?
That's a long time, isn't it? It doesn't feel like that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit too long.
A bit too long, yeah, indeed. But like, it does have to be said that Sam is probably the world's biggest Sonic fan that I know, at least.
Don't know what would give anyone
Nah,
impression.
yeah. Also, like the perfect color choice of blue that you've got. Like it always reminds me, but it's great. Like it's very very on brand.
Oh, you gotta have a theme.
Yeah, you do. So, what are you up to these days, man? Like, I know, like you still working on comic books? You're working on indie games. Like, I know you're a designer full time, but like, what do you do in your spare time, as it were?
It's been really weird, particularly over COVID. So, obviously, Comic-Cons stopped altogether.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But they also stopped at a time where I wasn't really getting on with Comic-Cons. As a Twitter thread recently where I sort of broke down, here's the money in,
right,
and best case scenario, here's the money out. And the TLDR was that if I spent £400 printing 200 copies of a comic, and then 390 on average to attend a convention, and best case scenario, I sold every copy of the comic, having not paid myself anything to do the art, man the table, anything like that, I would be up a tenner.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So you don't do it for the money is the answer, I guess.
I don't know anyone that does it for the money.
Right.
It's a really weird world, especially when you find out that like the average page rate for DC comics, the big boys, is about $200 a page.
Jesus.
For what's probably about 8 hours work, and breaking it down, my current day job salary is more than that.
Yeah, that's nuts, isn't it? I mean, it sort of reminds me of like the manga industry in Japan, and just like how the anime industry is, and just how very little money there is in it, apart from the people at the very top that are like the publishers and stuff. Like they earn all the money, but yeah, $200 a page. That's not enough, man, to make a good living, I guess.
That's absolutely insane. And then you realize why they like work traditionally still, so they can sell the original pages privately and take on commissions and
that does make sense,
do all the convention appearances. It's because you gotta make it up somewhere. But no, so the conventions not only weren't working monetarily, I was starting to have sort of panic attacks and such from due to the autism, and then being around like lots of people and bright flashing lights and complex layered noise. I wasn't coping at the show.
That makes sense.
So COVID was an opportunity to like sit down, work on an autobiographical comic about the autism, which I was trying to do a page a week. And when you're like, oh, lockdown, this is great, I'm gonna have all this time.
Yeah, that worked for like the first month, I think, for everyone, and then it was just like it all just went downhill from there. But
yeah, so I think I got about 24 pages done over the course of 18 months. That was not a good pace.
Right.
It's trucking along.
Yeah, you're still working on it, right?
Yeah. Switched from Photoshop because Adobe and subscription model to Clip Studio.
Yeah.
And that is, if you're doing comics or manga, it's so nice because it's just made for it. It's like going from Photoshop for pixel art to Ace Sprite. It's just a dedicated tool.
Yeah, like that. That's a great comparison, by the way. Like a good shout out to Sprite. God, it's such a great program. Like I was using a program called it's like Pixel Edit or something with a Y, Pixel Edit, and it was like really janky and not great. But like as soon as I moved to Sprite, it was like the curtain was lifted, and I was like, oh my god, where was this all my life? So yeah, like it's cool that you've like found a good software tool to sort of work out your comics with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And on the game design side, just keep meaning to do something more with it. And like when the lockdown started, I was like, let's finally learn Unity and C# properly instead of dicking around an RPG Maker.
Yeah.
Like, no disrespect to RPG Maker, it's been my rock for a good 15 years, but I just wanted to make the jump, and I had this unfortunate instance where I followed for a good 6 months or so these C# tutorials on making a top-down shooter, and I was losing faith in the instructor because he was improvising a lot and didn't seem to have planned the lessons out.
Okay.
And then I found out from the reviews and talking to other people that they have a reputation for I don't have to find a nice way to put it. I could just be into them because I stopped taking their course.
That's fine.
That they were teaching a lot of bad practice,
Okay.
and the code worked, but it probably shouldn't. So that really discouraged me, and it's taken a good 6 months on from that to then sign up for a different course from a different instructor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I picked up C# a few years ago now, and I was pretty much in the same boat as you. I was sort of sick of just like drawing pictures and just looking at it and thinking, that'd be cool if I could make it move. It's like, yeah, now I need to like jump on board, and like doing really hacky copy and pasty stuff from like the internet into Unity and stuff like that. It just got really frustrating. So when I finally did take the dive, it's so rewarding now. Like I'm sure like, you've come quite far along with C#, I guess, like in terms of how you go.
Not as far as I'd like.
I think that goes for absolutely everyone. I mean, I'm certainly no master at C# either, but like even like the little bits that you learn, like being able to just put your ideas into motion, actually figure stuff out, and it's not just restricted to like because I know like you mentioned before, like RPG Maker was like you were stuck within that framework of making RPG, and I know you like through sheer experience like figured out how to twist and change RPG Maker into becoming whatever sort of game engine you wanted it to be. But Christ, I can't even, like I remember seeing some of like the top down shooters and stuff that you were making in RPG Maker. I'm like, how? Like it's not even built for that, Sam. Like just learn C# and do Unity or something. This isn't. But yeah,
weirdly enough, that's what got me sort of into the career I'm in now. So instructional design, which is e-learning essentially.
Right.
If anyone's ever had to do one of those horrible digital health and safety courses at
that's
work,
Sam's fault.
sorry.
Yeah.
But the authoring software for that looks and feels a lot like RPG Maker.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough. So when we were still, in offices pre-COVID and that, there'd be a lot of instances where a colleague would just lean over at what I was working on and be like, what's that? And I'd explain how it was working, and they were like, okay, so hang on, you're using layers in articulate storyline. I'm talking to like very few people here. You're using layers in storyline in the same way you would use a C# function instead of actually using it as a light box. I'm like, yeah, that sums it up. Like,
right.
Where, you crazy bastard? Where?
Yeah, but that's great though. I mean, like, because you're restricted within this sort of framework, and you've sort of figured out a way around that. And I think like a lot of game engines nowadays, like, are starting to use like node-based systems where it's just like you're connecting boxes together instead of doing code. Because I think they've sort of realized that there's people like us that were just like completely visual, like starting out, and we just figure stuff out, like try to like just get it working. Like we didn't really care, like in the front end, like what it looks like, as long as it, like if it's going left to right, then problem solved. So it's really interesting. Like that was how you sort of got started in the industry, especially with like RPG Maker and stuff. Because I remember you still messing around with that when we were in uni, even. So
yeah, like the demos for that were in the portfolio for the interview, and they were just like, oh, okay, because there's e-learning in particular, they're sort of like, okay, engagement is low because no one wants to have to do the course, right?
Of course, yeah.
Like, it lands in your inbox, you go, oh, for fuck's sake. So it's just like, how can we make that more fun and engaging? And gamification was a big topic at the time.
Right.
It's seen as a little bit gimmicky now, but they're even, so sort of like the learning management system where people go in and they access all their training and stuff. We're just like, how can we look at what PlayStation and Xbox are doing, with achievements and trophies and that kind of thing, and just get them back? Can we do a daily login reward for digital training? And the discussions got very weird, and there were so many crossovers with games. I was just like, I don't know how I've landed here, but I'll run with it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's interesting because because I use Duolingo, which is a language learning app, which is very much like that. It's about learning stuff, but the gamification of it is probably the only reason why I actually use that app more than anything. It's just it's got very little to do with like the abilities that it gives you. It's just like you get XP for logging in every day. You get XP if you finish a lesson, if you make no mistakes and all that sort of stuff. You get gems and level up and things like just stuff which is super arbitrary for like video games, but for learning stuff, it's great. Like I love that stuff. So it's like more the merrier on that.
Well, I mean, Ring Fit Adventure. No way is that game subtle about what it's doing, but the only thing that gets me moving.
Right, that's fair. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that you landed there, though, man. Like, it's really interesting that was the sort of route that you got about in, because there's so many people that I know on our course, like, that finished the course that just ended up in really strange, weird places, or didn't make it, or did make it in certain different capacities. But it's cool that you sort of found your footing with that.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about the games industry that we went to uni with so many talented and not so talented people that that had a lot of ideas and a lot of things they wanted to do with games and were genuinely passionate about it.
Yeah.
And the closest they've gotten to the games industry is working in CEX.
Yeah.
And that's through no fault of their own.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this before, like the sort of issues that we've got with recruiters and people breaking in. There's a lot of weird stuff around that, but yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's just like teams of hundreds working on games, and you think, okay, used to be like when we were kids, it was like, ooh, 12 people worked on this game. They really blew the budget. And now it's teams of hundreds. You'd assume there'd be a lot more jobs out there than there are.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the I guess it depends on the actual job itself, because like if you want to be a 3D artist, like for full disclosure, if there's anyone new that's joined us, I work at Ubisoft. I work at Ubisoft Montreal. It's like one of the biggest game studios in the world in terms of just employee count anyway. And we literally have teams of hundreds of people. Like you walk in onto your team floor and it's just like an ocean of computers, just one after the other. And you think, wow, that's a lot of people. But then if you actually break it down into sections and you look at, okay, if you're a concept artist, like when I was on Watch Dogs Legion, and I was the one and only concept artist on our floor when I was there for a year. So that sort of gives you an idea. So, and you're just looking out at this ocean of computers of like 3D artists and coders and graphic designers and things like that, and you're just like, okay, I'm the only one in this job. Oh crap, sort of thing. But if you're a 3D artist, it's actually a lot easier to break in. But still, like you would think, like with this industry getting bigger and bigger and bigger, that there'll be more and more jobs, and there is in certain cases, but not for artists. I don't think. Like it's still we're constantly developing tools that are sort of streamlining all this sort of stuff, so less and less artists are needed. Almost like it's kind of counterproductive and nuts. Like the games industry is getting bigger, but the jobs are getting smaller. But yeah,
I don't know, because obviously I've been playing Sonic Colors Remastered after it came out on Friday, and the credits for that, it was trying to remember the numbers because I wrote it down to have a bit of a moan earlier.
Right. Okay.
Want to do.
Yeah.
And it's got the original Wii version credits, and then it's got the remaster credits. So it takes 13, 14 minutes to get through the Wii version credits.
Yeah. And
then it's another 17 minutes to get through the remaster. And I'm sitting there like, I swear I've seen that name 2-3 times now.
It's probably the same person. Yeah. But yeah, like speaking of which, we can move on actually onto what we've been playing. So I guess like you've just sort of give a little bit of a spoiler. Like what have you been playing this week, Sam?
Yeah, so Sonic Colors Ultimate Edition. Right. Putting a video together on it because I had very mixed feelings about that game. The pre-release was very toxic.
Okay.
People were just tearing down like every little trailer or screenshot. They didn't seem to understand that marketing were probably working with assets that were 2 months old
Yep.
and the art team were probably cringing at every trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And like there was one trailer that went out and it had a Metal Sonic fan art render in it.
I heard about this, yeah, and
Yeah.
they probably just left it in as a placeholder or something, I'm guessing, and then it got replaced later.
Exactly. The final game's out, the render's no longer there, and it's just like, guys, yeah, you throw it in, you get it working, you worry about replacing it later on.
Right.
It's and the actual game itself, it's a year late, and it's a bit of a mess. I'm not experiencing anything near as bad as what's being shown on Twitter with like actual Caesar inducing stuff.
Yeah.
But it also ain't pretty. Like I'm getting frame drops, freezers, and micro stutters running it on a PS5, and it's a remaster of a Wii game.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. Considering you could probably run it on Dolphin at like full frame rate or something.
Oh, don't open that can of worms.
Right. I'm not like advocating piracy or anything like that, obviously. But it's sort of nuts. Like a remaster's got glitches though. I mean, it's normally just because they're reskinning it. I'm sure that they're running a lot of the original code underneath. I would assume. Like you probably know more about it than I am.
So, reading into it, they couldn't use a lot of the Wii libraries because 11 years old and deprecated and no longer supported.
Right.
And apparently the Wii had a very particular render pipeline that was more closely related to a GameCube than anything else.
Interesting.
So they actually brought the assets into the Godot engine. And there's a bit of a thing because they haven't credited the Godot engine properly, apparently. Yeah, so that's fun for licensing. Which then meant they had to redo a lot of the shaders and light sources and various other bits and pieces. And it's...
So it's more of a remake than a remaster at this point, I'm guessing.
Yeah, kind of. It's a really weird line. And it's sort of reminding me a lot of the Silent Hill 2 HD situation we had back on PS3.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that. I think I played that on the Xbox 360. So... That's
they just like had half the source code, half the assets, and they started putting Comic Sans on things. And...
yeah, good times. But like generally, like how is the actual game itself? Like, are you still having fun with it, or is it just like apart from like the controversy like surrounding it sort of thing? Like when the rubber hits the road sort of thing, are you still having fun with it?
I finished it in terms of reaching the credits.
Okay.
I've not 100%ed it, not unlocked Supersonic, not got the platinum or anything like that. But like people talked a lot about Sonic Colors on Wii, and we had Xbox 360s, so we played Generations and Unleashed. We didn't touch Colors when we lived together.
Oh, sure.
And I felt like I missed out on a good Sonic game, and it is decidedly mid-tier.
Okay.
Like it is a solid 6 out of 10, sort of.
One of those.
This is fine, but
yeah, it's so frustrating when it comes to Sonic because like it has such a long legacy and just such a great fan base and stuff. But like we have such hit and miss titles. Like you think that they would treat it with a little bit more respect. You know what I mean? Like when Sonic Mania came out, I was blown away by that game. I thought it was like finally this like back on track, boys. This is the way to go. And then, like, you hear this sort of stuff about Sonic Colors and stuff like that, and it's like, ugh, God, like, you had it right there, like, almost there, but,
Sonic Mania was literally a public holiday in this household. I booked the day off work for that. I had it.
Yeah.
Because it was a digital pre-order, I was watching it tick down to midnight before it unlocked.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love that, though. I mean, because you always hear about people getting excited about modern sort of style of games, like, no offense to Mania, obviously, like, I love it. But it's cool that there's still people out there like yourself that are really hyped about about like Sonic Mania, like coming down and they're taking time off work for it and stuff. I love that stuff. That's great.
That's there's something about older, particularly getting to the point now. I've got enough of a library.
Yeah.
That most of the AAA stuff I want to play, I've played, and I'm spending more time with like B-tier games.
Right. I know what you mean.
Like a lot of Monkey Hero, Chase the Express, which is like Resident Evil on a train.
Oh, man,
terrorists.
I haven't thought about that game in years. That's such a great game. I think it had a different name in America. Do you know what it was?
Nuclear Dawn.
That was it. Yeah, really bizarre name. But God, yeah, I remember like playing that because I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen any marketing on it whatsoever. It was just completely obscure. And then when I played it, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, where the hell did this come from? But
Yeah, exactly. It's like digging through that and finding these gems, like even wet on the PS3. Like,
wow.
that is just fun.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome.
We had a couple of friends from back home, in quotation marks,
Right.
visit, not this weekend, but weekend before. And like the most played games that weekend were Die Hard Arcade and its sequel Dynamite Cop.
Good times. Yeah, that's great.
How about you? What you've been playing?
This week I've been playing. Speaking of which, and this actually pertains to you. It was actually kind of a weird coincidence, this, but I just finished playing Katamari Reroll, which is the remaster of Katamari. Nice. And the reason why this pertains back to you is because back in like 2008, maybe 2007, I think for my birthday, randomly, you got me the first Katamari game I ever played. I don't know if you remember this. But you got me Katamari Forever on the Xbox 360. And you're like, yeah, this looks Japanesey. It might be something that you will like. And you had no idea what it was, and I had no idea what. I was like, all right, thanks, Sam, sort of thing. And I was like really thankful that you bought it for me for my birthday. But I was like, I've never even heard of this thing. Like, what the hell is this? And I remember the first time I put it in, it's just the most wacky, crazy game I've ever played, and instantly fell in love with it. If you've sort of been hiding under a rock and you're watching this and you've never heard of Katamari, you need to go and play it. It's amazing. It's on Game Pass right now. You can play Reroll. It's just a game where you're rolling a ball around and you just pick stuff up as you go, and your ball gets bigger and bigger until eventually you're just basically rolling up the planet and islands and stuff. Like it's completely bananas. But
it is probably Guitaru Man and Incredible Crisis levels of Japanese.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If I was to put it on sort of the scale of like what is the most Japanese game, I think Katamari would be up there, next to like something like Persona or something. You know,
I think Persona is sort of like a more refined, palatable. Yeah. Japanesey game. I think Katamari is probably closer to something like an Earth Defense Force.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I mean, I had a blast with it, like playing this remaster of Damashi, which is the original like PS2 game, I think it was, and long before Katamari Forever, which is the one that you got me on the Xbox 360. So it was a few years after that. But yeah, playing through this game again, it's so much fun. Like, just, it never gets old. Like, and it made me realize, like, how much they need to make another Katamari game. It's like, Jesus, come on, Bandai Namco. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're sat on gold dust right now. Like, you could imagine this on the PS5 with, like, twice as many things on the screen. It'd be crazy. But, yeah.
I'd love to see more games where I just try something and go with it, regardless if it makes sense or not. Like,
yeah.
Well, we've had Untitled Goose Game, but what's the one where you literally play as a whole?
Oh, Donut County, is it?
That's it.
Yeah, I played that one. It actually reminds me quite a lot of Katamari, as does Untitled Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game is such a great game, by the way. If you're watching this and you've never played it, please go and download it. I think it was on Game Pass. I don't think it is anymore. I think it's gone, but it is well worth the money. Go and check it out. It's awesome.
It seems to hit a lot of indie sales as well, so you can probably find it 50% off somewhere.
Yeah. It's a very British game as well, which we don't get too much of, you know? Like, the whole, like, when we talk about things like Katamari, where it's really Japanese, like, really, really Japanese, for, like, the items that you're picking up and just the world around you and stuff like that. But Untitled Goose Game is the equivalent for that for British culture. It's extremely British. Like, it's great.
It's almost like if Bottom was a video game.
Right. Can you imagine the Americans checking that out right now? It's like, Bottom? What the hell are they talking about?
You just type it in.
Yeah, don't type that in. Yeah, you'll be surprised, to say the least. But, yeah. Katamari is great, though. I've been having a blast with it.
I'm going to come for you on that one. I was hoping Watch Dogs Legion would be more British.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty British, but it's more of a British setting. It doesn't have the spirit of Britain, almost, you know. But, like, Untitled Goose Game, just like the little things. Just the tiny little things. Like, I don't know.
That's clearly people who have lived here, whereas Legion, I think, was more caricature.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. It kind of reminds me of, like, the like the original GTA was made by British people, but it was set in America, sort of thing, and it's like that sort of distance commentary almost. Because I was constantly butting heads with people on Watch Dogs Legion when they like got certain things wrong or they were writing things, because I was sort of like in the bullpen with all the writers around me as well at one point.
Oh, okay.
And whenever like you'd hear like the word truck instead of van and stuff like that, you know, just like, you can't, no, this is wrong, sort of thing. And they would just, yeah, it was constant back and forth. But they need to make it more accessible for like the rest of the world that don't understand what the difference is between a van and a truck and stuff. And like most people do, obviously, but it's just small things like that that are more like massaged down for a North American audience, which were probably the bulk of the people playing that game anyway. So
yeah, so go where the money is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them to an extent, and it's same thing happens with obviously everything. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima's probably got a load of stuff which Japanese culture just does not have whatsoever, but they've had to massage it down for a wider audience. So I get it, I guess. Yeah, but it's all good. But yeah, we should probably move on. Have you got any other games that you want to talk about, or you all good?
No, I think we're all good.
Cool. So next on the list is Sony have got a conference next week. I think it's either Tuesday or Thursday. It's one of the T's.
It's Thursday. It'll be 9 p.m. British summertime. I don't know what that works out to America and Canada.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So it's pretty parts of the course for normal stuff. But is there anything in particular? I mean, it's a big one because Sony have been quiet for a long time in respects to, like, they skipped E3, they didn't do Gamescom, they've done a few little showcases for Horizon and God, what was the other one? Deathloop, I think they did one for.
Yeah, I don't get the big push for Deathloop from them.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to make their money out of Bethesda before Bethesda are finally like gone for good for Xbox, I guess. But yeah, it's because that game is going to eventually be on Xbox as well. It's probably going to be a year exclusive. It's probably not completely funded by Sony. Same as Tokyo Ghostwire. So it's kind of a weird one, that one. But yep, remains to be seen, I guess. But yeah, I mean, is there anything in particular that you're sort of looking forward to on the list, or how are you feeling about it?
I want something to actually play on the PS5.
Yeah.
I sort of got the hardware, and so far there's been very little that's shown me what it's capable of. I think it's literally Demon's Souls, which is a remake of a PS3 game I already have.
Mm-hmm.
Returnal, which a roguelike third-person shooter just doesn't look like it's for me. And Ratchet and Clank, which I bought and devoured in a day. And I'm just like, what else you got?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting because we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I think I fall in the exact same spot as you in that respect. You know, like I'm just completely, like my PS5 is gathering dust at this point because I play everything on Game Pass because everything is quote unquote free. It's not really free. Like I'm obviously paying a subscription, but just downloading games on that instead. And like my PS5 is literally just sat there. Like why did I buy this thing so early, sort of thing. So yeah, interested.
At least
to
we
see
got the
anything.
bigger heatsink.
This is true. We did get the early bigger heatsink, but yeah.
Yeah, it pretty much at the moment, like the PS5 was a drop-in replacement for my PS4, and to be fair, my PS4 backlog runs better on there than it would on a PS4 Pro. The wife's had the PS4 standard off me. That's in the front room. And the Xbox Series X, likewise, drop-in replacement for me Xbox One. Richie had my old Xbox One off me when he visited last weekend.
Right.
And the Series X has taken over for that. But I sort of, last November, jumped into next gen, wanting next gen, and I'm getting, like, nicer versions of last gen, which is, it's frustrating that, like, you went Master System to Mega Drive, there's a jump I can see day one.
Yeah. That
to Sega Saturn, there's a jump I can see day one. Likewise Dreamcast, likewise PS2. And then since the PS3, it's really slowed down.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, I don't know if that's like the technology being caught up to sort of thing, like, because now pretty much anything is doable at this point. Like the net is wide open, so it's kind of we're at this weird standstill right now where we're waiting for new technology to catch up. Things like Unreal Engine 5, where we can put in raw scans of 3D objects without having to bake them down and stuff like that. Like, the fidelity is going to jump eventually within this generation, but out of the gate, I agree, it's so lackluster right now. Like, there's...
I've been playing the most on my PlayStation 5? Go
for it.
Saints Row 3 Remastered.
Well, there was a new one announced. Like, are you excited about that one?
I'm going to sound like a typical internet commenter here. It doesn't look like Saints Row. It doesn't feel like Saints Row. It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. I guess like it's a bit too early to sort of decide like how close it'll get to the feel of Saints Row normally anyway. But yeah, I agree, man. Like it's tough. Like there's nothing really to play which is really jumping out at me, or something that there's nothing that I can't play on last gen right now, which is a shame because I have both a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X. I'm just playing the Series X purely because of the accessibility of Game Pass right now. And I really hope that's one of my main hopes from this conference is that PlayStation sort of get on board with that whole subscription service and dive right into that. But I know like that you probably don't agree with that purely because like I know you're a very how can I put this, like, conservative gamer in that respect. You like your cases, you like your games, and you like them on your shelf sort of thing, which I completely respect. But yeah,
Game Pass is changing that. And if PlayStation Now up its game, and we're seeing rumblings like, oh, they're putting a Final Fantasy on there every month for the next couple of months and things like that. If Sony up their game, I could be tempted. My big issue when it came to physical versus digital is physical, I've got something to put on the shelf. If I don't like it, I can trade it in for something else. And also there was a preservation aspect for a very long time.
Of course, yeah. That's
PlayStation Digital Store going away on PS3. I got my discs. Take those away. So a very redneck sort of approach to it.
Yeah, like I said, conservative about your video games, I guess. But yeah.
However, like I looked at part of digital, even as recently as Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1, when that came out last April, was like, it's $59.99 to pre-order on PlayStation Store digital and have nothing to show for it.
Right.
It is $42.85 to pre-order a physical copy from Shop 2. I'm going to save 20 quid, and it's the savings for, because they're not manufacturing discs, they're not manufacturing plastic cases, they're not shipping or distributing anything.
Yeah.
And it's more expensive?
Yeah.
No way. But when I look at the preservation argument, that's fallen away because even like Sonic Colors this week, well, every game I put into my PS4 or PS5 downloads a day one update. What's on the disc is effectively just an access key for a digital copy anyway.
Yeah, it is getting to that point.
So that's a moot point. And then Game Pass is so cheap for this buffet table of games that I'm jumping in and out of and probably playing a wider variety than ever before. That I'm sort of like, okay, the tech's there. I can get on board with this. I'm just looking at PlayStation like, bitch, you got out the gate first.
Yeah.
How are you still worse?
Yeah, it's really surprising. I mean, me and Chris talk about this all the time on the podcast, just like how it's really surprising that Sony are so far behind in that respect. And it'll be really surprising, like if this conference goes by, or showcase or whatever they're calling it, goes by without them up in their game with either PlayStation Now or a rebrand of PlayStation Now in some way, and just really getting on board with this sort of stuff. Because like the power of that jumping in and jumping out is what makes it so good, is that there's so many games out there that I do not want to buy, but I would love to try and play and check them out. And there's some games which I finish, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that I didn't buy that and I just played it the once, because it doesn't really, like, it would just, I would never play this again and it would just be sat on my shelf sort of thing. So it's like, I think I'd like that.
I'm feeling that more as I'm getting older as well. So like between work and kids and everything else, I don't have time to get the platinum. I have time to maybe see the credits for half of my games. But, not even half. That's probably being overly generous.
Right.
And it's sort of like, just give me something I can download, enjoy. I'll beat the final boss that's good enough for me, which is not at all how either of us used to be.
Right.
Just trying to do Mile High for the 500th time.
God, yeah, getting the platinum, all the 1,000 out of 1,000 achievement points for Call of Duty 4 with like Mile High Club was just Jesus. That achievement, God, I still have nightmares.
Sitting there with a new Halo and not leaving until we'd finished it on Legendary Co-op.
They were good times, man. I mean, like, for sort of give some backstory to this, but we used to live together, obviously, back in Norwich. Many a LAN party of playing Halo 3 and Call of Duty and things like that. They were good times.
I still remember we had the largest living room out of most of the students on our course. So we'd get to Friday and like 16 guys would turn up with a TV under one arm and Xbox 360 under the other.
Yeah.
And that would carry on, like with Capture the Flag, Big Team Deathmatch, etc., until our tutors were calling our phones one at a time on Monday morning, asking where we were.
Yeah, I mean, I miss them times. Like, sort of online multiplayer killed that, you know, in a way. And I remember, like, it started happening while we were doing that as well. It was this really strange moment of when we bought the new Call of Duty. I think it was like Call of Duty 4. I think we set up like we got set up as normal, like we normally did for our Halo parties, and we set up like the 3 screens with the triangle sofas like back to back, so like don't be looking over your shoulder at each other. And then I remember the day that we all put in Call of Duty 4, like the original Call of Duty 4, and put it in. We're like, okay, split screen. Like how do you set this up? And it's like you couldn't split it up into 4 screens anymore. It was just online. I think it was only like one person could be on one screen at one time, so you could only play like 3 people, sort of thing. Like that realization washing over us, and we're like, wait a minute, why would they do this? And that's because the whole online multiplayer aspect started coming in. That was when it was really creeping in at that point. So even then we saw the decay starting to happen. So it was really strange.
Going back to this weekend just gone, got people over, got multiple controllers. It's all right there, and you're like, Need for Speed Heat? Nope, can't do that. Tekken, we can do Tekken. That's all right. We can still do that. Christ. But for the most part, we were back on the Saturn, back on the Dreamcast, back on the PS2.
Yeah.
Because that's where the split screen games were.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? But yeah, it'll be really cool to like sort of get that back into the industry a little bit. But like, I guess the money just isn't there. So it's tough.
If we look at, to bring us back around to Sony's show,
of course, yeah.
The legacy of like those split screen games of Time Splitters on PS2.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if that was on now, and you could just fire up Time Splitters 2 and just go nuts. Because I know Jim Ryan says they don't believe in generations and he doesn't seem to respect their legacy, but there's so much in Sony's brand and IP that they could farm to hell. And technically, the PlayStation 5 already runs every generation of PlayStation game.
Yeah.
But obviously, PlayStation 4 through backwards compatibility, we know that. That's now like 99.9% of games.
Yeah.
Cool. PlayStation 3, streaming only through PlayStation Now, not ideal, I'll take it.
Yeah.
PlayStation 2, there were like 30 or so PS2 classics released for PS4.
Yeah, and they were, I think they weren't native either. I'm pretty sure they were running through like an in-house emulator, which they had running, and it worked beautifully. Like, it's really strange that they didn't put more on that service, but people just weren't buying it.
Well, they did more during the PS3 era, but when it went up to PS4, they added trophy support in, and they recertified them. Yeah. And I think that added so much time and budget to it that they sort of shot themselves in the foot. And technically, there is one PlayStation 1 game that you can play on a PlayStation 5 right now.
Which one's that?
Medieval. So the PS4 remake of Medieval, you do all of the, I think they're called Soul Challenges.
Okay.
And you unlock the PS1 version on the main menu as a reward for doing that.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, technically, you can play at least one game from every generation. And if you want to throw in, like, Parappa the Rapper Remastered, they found out that was running on a modified PSP emulator of the PSP port of Parappa the Rapper. So technically, the PS5 can play PSP games.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, one of the things that PlayStation could really do with their service, like Game Pass, like if they had a PlayStation Pass sort of thing, been saying this for years, but if they came out of the gate and they said, okay, we've got all of the PlayStation 1 library on there because it's just sat there catching dust at this point, like we're not doing anything with it, we might as well put it on there. A load of like PS2 games, we've got the PlayStation 3 games already on there, and then we start just front ending like a load of PlayStation 4 games like onto the PlayStation 5. You've got this amazing catalog of games, like probably way bigger than Xbox has got, but Xbox is still like killing them at the moment, which is kind of backwards and weird to me. Like, it's like you're sat on free money, boys. Like these games are finished, they're done. Like I know it'll take like a bit of R&D to get these things running and get them into a UI that works, all that sort of stuff, but it's still free money. Just like the sheer amount of, say, hey, we've got like 2,000 games on our service compared to Xbox's measly 500.
They don't even need to R&D an emulator. I mean, for the PlayStation Mini, they just used an existing open source emulator and licensed it.
Yeah, the PlayStation Classic sort of small console that you can buy. It is. I think it was. What was it? The actual emulator name? I can't remember the name of it.
I think it was just EPSXE, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, it was one of the like RetroArch cores. I know that, but really kind of nuts that they took that step, because that, and it was a good thing as well, because it sort of shows like, hey, we're willing to, meet the sort of, not really. It's kind of hard to say like the piracy scene, but like we're like the sort of open sourceness of all that. Like we're willing to meet them halfway because they obviously want this and you guys want this, and like even if they make very little money on it, like I think it'd still be worth it in the long run just for the PlayStation brand. But like they are sort of going a different direction over this sort of generation where they want to be seen as like the big AAA guys. They don't want to be associated with their older games anymore, which is really strange to me considering how much great stuff has come out of their back catalog, and because I personally love that sort of stuff. Like I think PlayStation's best games are in the past almost, so it's really strange that that's the direction that they're going into, but maybe they'll make a U-turn on that a little bit on Thursday, hopefully.
The best announcement they can make Thursday night is that Jim Ryan has resigned and been replaced.
Yeah, I mean I'm not going to go that far, but yeah, I think he's made some weird decisions. I'll give you that, absolutely. I mean, this whole, I don't think it's just him either. I think like Herman Hulse, like him coming into the job has been a bit strange, and just Worldwide Studios. But yeah, it's just a really strange time.
I think we're just seeing the same swing that we always see. So coming out of the PS2, GameCube, Xbox generation, Sony completely dropped the ball with the PlayStation 3 because they're like, we're the big guys, you're going to buy it anyway. Yeah. And in comes Microsoft with the 360. Mm-hmm. Next generation, Microsoft completely dropped the ball with the Xbox One out of the gate, and PlayStation are swooping straight in there with the PS4. Now that Sony are the big guys again with the PS5, Microsoft back again, and it's just the same pendulum. It's like, guys,
bizarre like that. I mean, it's so predictable as well, and it's just like you know this, like you've been through this rodeo over and over again. Like you stop making these same mistakes. Me and Chris have spoken about this as well, like the whole idea of just like Sony re-dropping the ball, and who knows, maybe Thursday will like come out of it because it's probably their first like actual showcase that they've had since the start of this generation, like proper, like this is what we've got going, this is what we've got coming. Because yeah, it's really strange that Sony just redid this whole thing of like, we're the big guys, we're awesome, and it's like, yeah, you're selling consoles, but like that's only going to last so long before it starts dipping a little bit, and it already has started to dip a little bit from what I understand.
They're only now making anything on the consoles, because originally they were making a loss on every PS5.
Right.
And the problem is, where they make the money is on the controllers, on the PlayStation Plus subscriptions, the PlayStation Now subscriptions that people ain't buying.
Yeah.
And on the software. And it's just not there right now. You know, you get the hardware, go, hooray, I'm in that elite little club, you know. And then you got next to nothing to do with it except for play your old PS4 games again. We were on a group like chat thing through Discord for the original PS5 reveal.
Right.
This is the one where they showed off like Forbidden West and a bunch of other things. And I remember that sort of faded to black, opened with a Rockstar logo. We were just like, oh. And then we saw Rockstar Games Presents and that familiar font. And we were like, is this 6? Is this GTA 6 right now? No, Grand Theft Auto Online is coming to PS5.
Yeah.
That's what they opened with. And there was just this audible groan. And I think that sums up Sony this generation so far for me.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. I think I'm pretty much in the same boat as you right now, where we've sort of hit. I think the games media over the past sort of month have sort of realized they've hit the realization like, oh my god, there's actually no PlayStation 5 games exclusively that's been announced that is coming in the pipe. Like, we don't know of any PlayStation 5 game exclusive. Like, we know of a lot of games that are going to be on PlayStation 4 and 5, but how much of the PlayStation 4 versions holding back the PlayStation 5 versions of those games? Like, how many exclusive games do we know about that are coming? Like, we know we've had Returnal, we know we've had Ratchet, but there's nothing in the future yet. Like, we don't know about anything really.
Well, we had Gran Turismo 7. That was advertised as PS5 exclusive for the longest time. And I don't know if it's COVID, the scalping situation, or what, but they then suddenly turned around and went, oh, it's also coming to PS4. And I can imagine a developer who hadn't got the memo yet sitting down for the evening, you know, watching that stream, just spitting their drink out all over their desk going, we've got to do what?
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, it's really strange that we're in the first year of such a huge console launch and there's just no sort of no exclusives that have been announced. Like, even God of War, which is like the biggest thing, which we still haven't seen anything of. Like, we haven't seen any gameplay. We don't know what it's going to look like. I mean, it could be amazing for all I know, obviously, but it's strange. Like, even that is going to be on PlayStation 4 as well.
To be fair, the global situation that you must not name for the algorithm does not like that. And in Britain, especially, it's been a 1-2 punch because we've also had Brexit.
Right.
I mean, when the shops are struggling to keep bread and milk in stock, I'm going to be a little more forgiving on video game delays.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if it was... I mean, I obviously not talking about releases, but like just in terms of announcements, it's really strange that we haven't heard more about this. But like, speaking of which, like, what games in particular, like, are you like wanting to see, I guess, like that either have been announced or haven't been announced, like for the PlayStation 5? Like, what sort of experience are you looking for?
I'm gonna play to my audience a little bit here.
Okay.
And say,
a new Sonic game. I'm gonna call it. No, I'm joking.
No, in all seriousness, I waited 5 years from Forces to this big Sonic event that Sega hyped up.
Yeah.
And we got like 5 seconds of Sonic running through a forest and a nonsense logo that no one can make any sense of. It'd be nice to know a little more about that. As much as I'd like to say Horizon and God of War, I can also feel the shelf behind me going, you haven't played the first ones yet.
Yeah.
So I've got them, just haven't, you know.
You should check them out. They're great games. God of War was my game of the year in 2018 when it came out, and or was it 2017? I'm not sure. But then, and Horizon was definitely my game of the year in 2016. So, yeah,
nice.
Amazing games.
And I've been back in to Resident Evil since the Resident Evil 2 remake. That was my game of the year for 2018. No, 2019, I think that came out.
Yeah,
anyway,
great remake. I just recently played that.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I need to get up to date to play 8, but if they went into, you know, the Sony experience and they unveiled his Code Veronica, Resident Evil 2 remake style, which was like, yes, because that game, technically you can play Code Veronica X on a PS5 because of the PS2 Classic release. It's not a good way to play it. That game has not aged well.
Yeah, a lot of the Resident Evil games haven't, I guess, like the originals anyway. Like the remakes are warranted more than anything. Like when they announced they were making a Resident Evil 2 remake, I was like how good is that going to be? Like it's might be a bit late, and blew me away. Like I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like this, they should keep doing this. Like you're on the right track now, Capcom. You've got the ball, just run that way. You're good, sort of thing. And so, like
you've found the formula,
right?
Just don't fuck with it.
And then
please.
Resident Evil 3 came out, and I had a lot of fun with that game. Yeah, I'd be really curious to see if they did. I'd be curious if they did a Resident Evil 4 remake before Code Veronica. Like that's the thing. I know Resident Evil 4 is coming out on the Oculus Quest. I think it is. Like they're doing it for VR, but I'm not sure if they've. Because that one is widely loved. It would be really surprising to me if they didn't do something more after the VR. Like maybe that's next year.
I don't know if they'll do Resident Evil 4 because they're still selling that triple pack on PS4 and 5, which is 4, 5, and 6
right.
as a bundle. that still seems to do numbers. And I think it would be a misstep to just skip Code Veronica.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a fan favorite anyway. Like people that really like the series, because that's something you get the casual sort of Resident Evil players that don't that normally skip all the sort of spin-off games and they just stick to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then that's all they play. They don't play any of the other ones that are out. So it'll be a shame if people didn't get exposed to that in whatever way.
A lot of major stuff happens in Code Veronica, and there's always been that pervasive rumor that they were developing Code Veronica as Resident Evil 3.
Yeah.
And then Sony sort of went, hang on, you've got a contract with us that all the numbered entries have to come out on PlayStation. So they took Nemesis, which was the spin-off, and considering the asset reuse and various other things, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And they slapped the 3 onto the spin-off instead.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, that happened a lot back in the day, and vice versa happened as well. Like some games that were intended to be spin-offs eventually became like main titles as well. Like it happens all the time, especially in the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era of stuff. I mean, famously, like you know this because your favorite Final Fantasy, I believe, is Final Fantasy 9 as well. And that was originally not meant to be a mainline game at all. Like that was meant to be a spin-off, like called, I think it was Final Fantasy Memoria or something. It was meant to be it was meant to harken back to the original sort of Final Fantasy series on the NES and the SNES and stuff like that. But they started seeing the game getting developed and like, holy crap, this is getting really good. Let's give this a number because it's that good.
And you'll correct me on this because you know more about 9's history than I do. They wrapped 7, and then I believe one team went on to 8 and one team went on to 9, and that's right. How those games were able to come out a year apart.
Yeah, they were made at the same time. They were both green-lit around the same time, I think. But yeah, the Hawaii team of Squaresoft back in the day worked on Final Fantasy 9, and then the mainline team in Japan worked on Final Fantasy 8. They were obviously like crossing over and doing things for each other as well, but for the most part, they were sort of 2 separate teams working on both of those games at the same time. So awesome.
Just got a funny visual image of the Hawaii team just like on constant beach booze ups going, yeah, we'll put a Marlboro in there, it's fine.
Yeah, I want to see them like holiday photos, you know, of just them, like, just with the flowers around their neck and stuff. Like, yeah, that'd be great. But yeah. So a new Resident Evil, is that on the list for you for Thursday or?
I'd say Code Veronica remake would be great, and if I could get one last one would be for Sega and Atlas to turn around and just go, we've teased it enough this year through the anniversary celebrations, we're closely aligned with PlayStation anyway, here's Persona 6.
Ooh, yeah. No, I think you're right there, actually. I don't know if it'll be at this event, but they've got, because I know Persona announced they've got like a year of announcements, and they're announcing something every month for the next year or something, so they've got 12 announcements lined up.
But Sega also promised that for Sonic. They said 2020 would be the year of Sonic with a substantial announcement every month, and that didn't work out. Quickly they sort of like, what, did we say that? No.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think going back to what you mentioned before, like I think with the circumstances of the past sort of couple of years, you know, what shall not be named. Yeah, I think that's probably got a lot to do with that as well, maybe. So they didn't.
But when I'm looking at Sega and Atlas promising me the same thing for Persona, I'm sort of feeling a little, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I think because if I was to take a step back and look at that sort of year-long thing, I think the last thing that they would announce probably is the Persona 6. Because either way, like if they announced Persona 6, which is in the pipe, like it's coming, we know.
Oh yeah.
Like Persona 5 was amazing, everyone loved it, so like there's no reason why they wouldn't be working on this thing. But it wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't the last thing that they announced. So I think like if I was expecting anything on Thursday Persona related, Persona 4 Golden on the PlayStation 5. I think that's a given at this point, because that's got to come. Like they've got to see how much that game is selling and being streamed on Steam right now. Like I've seen so many.
It broke all their sales expectations, and Persona 4 has gone from PS2 to Vita to PC. It's like, come on, you've done the work already.
Yeah, just take a hint. Take a hint, man. Like, and it's such an incredible game. Like I played Persona 4 Golden on my Vita like a few years ago. I got absolutely obsessed with it. Just finished Persona 5 Royal last year. Well, it was this year actually. I just finished it for the first time. Amazing. Like more Persona, please. Like keep it coming. Like it's crazy to me that it isn't more widespread even. Like it's such a great game, and they just need to do more with it. I'd be really surprised if Golden wasn't announced on Thursday. It'd be really strange.
Seeing as they did Persona 3 and 5 dancing spin-offs like they did for 4, and Fez, I mean, unless you've got a PS3 and access to the PSN store, you can't get Persona 3 Fez.
Right.
Maybe they bring that over first.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a good point. I think at the very least we should probably expect in Fez and Golden at some point, like on these systems. But what order they sort of come in on? It wouldn't surprise me if Fez and Golden were sort of packaged together at some point as well for the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4 probably. It'll be interesting to see it though. But yeah, Persona 6, I think that is probably on the cards somewhere. I'm sure it's got to be, right? It's
just maybe not for Thursday.
Yeah, just maybe not for Thursday.
Yeah,
I think just timing wise, because we know these things are coming. Like, and if they're not, then they're absolutely insane, and I need a slap around the side of the head because like they're sat on gold right now and they're just not doing anything with it. But yeah, new Persona game, please. That'd be great.
What are you expecting?
God, what am I expecting at this point? Sort of keeping it vague, I guess, but like I would like to see something from no surprise to anyone, something from the Team Eco team, which is a gen design company that worked on The Last Guardian. They broke off from Sony a few years ago, and they've become their own studio at this point, but they've been very, very quiet, and they sort of put out a small tease at the beginning of this year where they had like 2021, it was just the logo of 2021, and then in each of the numbers there was a picture from Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, The Last Guardian, and then the last sort of on the one there was sort of a concept illustration for their next thing. So
nice.
I'm fully expecting them to announce something, and it would do well to be on Sony's stage. Even though they broke off from Sony, I think they're still quite heavily affiliated with them, so it'd be really surprising to me if it wasn't.
Well, even if not professionally or behind the scenes affiliated or backed by Sony, I think in terms of their audience and their fan base, still see them as Sony.
Yeah, that's a great point. But I would love to see whatever they're working on. That's my main sort of hope and dream, because Eco is my favorite game of all time. Like, I've got all like Team Eco stuff like on my wall. Like they're my Sonic to you, I guess. Like you're the big Sonic 2 fan. I'm the big Team Eco fan. But yeah, it's that would be up there for me to see more than anything. But yeah, just I think like more than anything, I would just like to see more PlayStation 5 games. Like, what have you got coming? Like, show us what this system can do. Like, I'm really like I'm itching to play something on this thing, but it's just at the moment it unless I see something on sale, it's just gathering dust.
It kind of feels like I've bought a ticket to a show, and I'm sort of sat in the stands, and we've had 2 or 3 warm-up acts on. I'm just sort of like, are they gonna get to the main event or? Yeah.
No, it's fascinating, but yeah, I'd like. Also, I want to see more from obviously Final Fantasy 16 and things like that. It would be cool to see like how that game's coming along, because I think they showed that stuff like pretty early on, and yeah.
Oh, what was that? That really weird, gritty Dark Souls aesthetic remake of Final Fantasy 1 they had.
Oh God, I don't even want to think about it. What was it called? It was like Final Fantasy Origin. That was it. It's called Final Fantasy Origin, not Origins, like the original Origins, but like it's called Final Fantasy Origin, which is such a weird, bizarre name, because like there's obviously people like us that know about Origins, like Dawn of Souls and all that sort of stuff. So, God, that game looks bad, by the way. Like I can't actually get over how terrible that game looks. It hurts me to watch the trailer again.
Meanwhile, you've got the Pixel remasters, mobile and Steam only.
They don't look good either. You know, it's. I mean, you know this more than anyone as well. Like, inconsistent pixel sizes like drive me insane. Like when you've got like different size pixels within a screen, and then you've got super clean UI text. I know like there's mods out there that sort of fans have fixed the game, quote unquote, to sort of be a bit more consistent, but fans shouldn't have to go into mod these things, man. Like they should know. Like the people at Square Enix should know what they've got. You know, like they shouldn't be messing with this sort of stuff. But you know,
it's visually inconsistent to have. The pixel ratio isn't that hard to maintain either. It's sort of like, well, you managed to display all this text before when you only had like 320 by 240.
Yeah, it's basic stuff, man. Like it's nuts to me that they haven't sort of figured this out. But yeah, who knows? I mean, because the thing about Final Fantasy 1 as well and Final Fantasy 2 and like all of them, the only one that really needs something is Final Fantasy 6 at this point. Like they really need to do something with that, like either a remake or make it like a decent port somewhere. Because that's never.
Did you miss the smeary Vaseline remaster?
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like they've never really done that game justice. But Final Fantasy 1 and 2 have had their like high points with Final Fantasy Origins, and Dawn of Souls is such a great version, and the PSP version is actually pretty decent as well. They've got sort of a range of stuff that you can choose from to get the best version of those games. Final Fantasy 3 and 4, same thing. Like if you want to play the 3D remakes and things like that. But 5 and 6 have really just completely dodged all the bullets of a good port so far, almost, apart from like the GBA versions, which nobody can get hold of anymore because they're so expensive or just super rare.
Yeah. I think 5 I'll give you.
Yeah.
6, there's the Super Nintendo original.
Of course, yeah, that's the golden one, yeah.
Game Boy Advance, you mentioned. There is a PC version, even if it's not,
Yeah.
Great. Actually, yeah, just those 3. I was thinking there were 4 or 5 versions of 6, but...
Yeah, it's strange, like, because it's such a widely loved entry into the series that you would think that would have been the one that they sort of milked out the most, but... Yeah, it's bizarre that they never did, and like there's more versions of Final Fantasy 3 out there than there is Final Fantasy 6, which is really strange, but that's where we are.
Someone screwed up.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like someone just needs to walk into the Square Enix offices and be like, "Yo, this is what you need to do. Stop messing with them. Just make good ports, make good remasters, and make them accessible, and you'll be fine. Like make all the pixel sizes consistent. We're good. Like make some FMVs if you want, but." Past that.
Well, if they want to be really, and this would look horrible with shimmering on a modern display.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to be really anal, they would make the pixels slightly rectangular, because it was a very thin display for a Super Nintendo that then got stretched to a 4x3 screen, so it was never square.
Right. Yeah. No. It's nuts to me. Like you don't see any like old pixel games, because there's always this conversation about. Like when they're upscaling certain games like Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9, like there's obviously a huge sort of modding community that are trying to upscale AI with the with all the backgrounds so they look smooth and they don't look pixelated. It's kind of nuts that no one's figured out, like maybe we should just put like a CRT filter on this, like a really like GPU intensive awesome CRT filter. Then we don't have to mess with the game whatsoever. It's just like a really cool, like makes it look great. Because when you do that properly, like it looks fantastic. So,
but you've got people doing that. This is going to sound really silly. You've got people doing that on custom IPS Game Boy displays.
Yeah,
and there's actually the processing power in the IPS display is sorting out the filter, and there are a handful of decent CRT filters baked into games. Sonic Mania, surprising no one. But also the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. So they put the game in an arcade bezel.
Yeah.
They scale it at an integer scale so that all of the pixels are nice and sharp and clean and you don't get the shimmering issue.
Yeah.
And the range of CRT filters in there can actually look pretty convincing.
Yeah, I've seen some people mess with it. I mean, there was a CRT filter that just came out for a game called Blasphemous. I don't know if you've ever played that one. It's like a 2D side-scroller Metroidvania game.
Okay.
But it's all pixel based and it looks great as it is. But like when they added the CRT filter, it was like, Jesus, okay, this is probably what it was designed for originally because it looks so much better. But it's bananas like how because when you get into like the whole CRT, like this is the geekiest thing in the world as well, like anyone listening to this. But when you start understanding how CRT filters work and like the differences that it makes, like the night and day, like we're constantly contending with these like indie developers putting games out that are all like, oh, this is how it used to look, and it's like, no, it didn't whatsoever. Like, because that the way Sonic used to look on a CRT filter, like there was no pixels. It looked like it was vector art to us because we were looking at it on a CRT screen and it looked perfect. But like with today's sort of LCD like sort of monitors that we're looking at these things and everything's like super crisp, sharp edges on every pixel, and we think that's how it used to look. It didn't. And I think we need a revolution for CRT filters, I think.
Well, there are a lot of people who will only play on CRT for that reason. And I think probably the best example, you opened the Sonic bottle again, so this is on you.
Yeah, it's all my fault. I apologize.
The Sonic 1 waterfall, Green Hill Zone. So that, if you look at it on a model display, is just strips. Yeah. And there's gaps all down this waterfall that make no sense. And then you put it into a CRT where they're relying on that noise. And it's sort of those two lines of pixels bleed together, and you do get a convincing transparency effect for a waterfall.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we don't do more of that sort of stuff in modern games. I'm not like suggesting that we apply like a CRT filter to like The Last of Us Part 2 or anything like that. I mean, you can if you want, like, to each their own, but it's a missed opportunity that sort of people like Sony or Xbox don't have it on like the sort of front end almost, like within their UI options, like apply CRT filter onto your TV. Like that'd be great. I'd love that stuff.
Have you seen, and this is going to definitely veer us off into nerdy, Digital Foundry, like we weren't already.
I already know what you're talking about, but yeah.
Digital Foundry put Control Ultimate Edition on a VGA CRT monitor.
Yeah,
it
amazing.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, looked really good, and it's got like natural bloom, and like they don't need to upscale it either, so it doesn't need to be at 4K or even 1080p. They were playing it at like 720 or something, or like the weird aspect ratio of the TV that they had, and it just looked absolutely phenomenal. And they were just like, one of the people that are on Digital Foundry didn't believe any of this, and was like, yeah, this sounds like nonsense, whatever, it's just like geeky stuff, right? But then when he tried it, he apparently it's just like, yeah, it's kind of hard to go back. Like, why did we stop using CRTs? Like, it's nuts. But
I mean, analog to digital wasn't necessarily a quality thing. It was these are lighter, these are easier to get into people's homes, they cost far less, and they're easier to transport.
Absolutely.
Shipping costs are way down on them. Profits are way up. That's as simple as it gets.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Like financially, it's more to the question of like why they didn't, like, they figured out how to make the smaller form factor, but why didn't they like bring the technology with it almost, like, and try and bring it over to that in some respect? But like, I understand like how they got to this, and it's kind of hard to go back now because the processes of making like phosphorus screens and stuff like that, it's just impossible to make in a modern era. We just don't have the infrastructure to make these things anymore.
Weirdly enough, we still manufacture CRTs today.
Really?
And we manufacture CRTs for prisons.
Of course. Why not?
Because it's we can produce it in translucent plastic. You can see all the innards and how it's functioning, and the guards can make sure you're not hiding anything in it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And all prison tech is in this clear plastic. I'll have to find and send you the YouTube video.
Yeah, you'll have to. That's great. Yeah. Like, I love that sort of stuff. I've been on the lookout for like a PVM, like a sort of hospital monitor and stuff, because like they're apparently the best sort of CRTs that you can find, but they're so expensive to get unless you just, like, the best thing you can do is just walk into like old doctors' offices and ask them like, hey, have you got any CRTs in your basement or something, like, because like you don't use them anymore. And they're like, yeah, we got like 20 of those, do you want one, sort of thing. And like that happens all the time. Like, gamers are constantly doing that, and they're finding these things like that way. So yeah, it's just trying to find.
Weirdly enough, we got I got just a little one for playing Time Crisis on, essentially, because light guns, you need a CRT for light guns. really interested to see how Forever Entertainment do the House of the Dead remake on Switch. If it's just the gyro controls, I'm going to be so disappointed. I want a good light gun solution.
Yeah, I mean, I as much as I would love to see that as well, I think it's just going to be like you point the controller at it and, you know, it's going to be sad, but like that's the reality of it, I guess.
The Sinden light gun has proven it's possible. And their Indiegogo ended up something like 14,000 people. And okay, that's not to scale for commercial, but in terms of getting a CRT, like that one we just put on our local Facebook marketplace, wanted CRT, woke up in the morning to like 20 different messages from people going, yeah, it's sitting in our attic, please take it. Like, we don't want to take it down to the dump or anything.
It's too big.
Like,
yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, I doubt we'll see like a good CRT filter at the Sony event, that's for sure. But
no, we went way off.
we could dream, right? But yeah, I mean, the only other thing which I'm probably expecting from the Sony event, to sort of get back on track to finish this stuff out, I think we're going to see more about The Last of Us in some respect. I think The Last of Us remake, which is highly sort of hinting at this point, like that's been rumored to come about. We're probably going to see more of that. It's probably going to be a good chunk of this show is going to be dedicated to The Last of Us. Last of Us Part 2 Director's Cut is probably going to get announced. Last of Us multiplayer thing is probably going to get announced. Probably a short bit from the HBO TV show. That wouldn't surprise me if we saw that. I think a good chunk of this show is probably going to be The Last of Us. But yeah, we'll see.
Outside of they've got a TV show coming, when it comes to The Last of Us remake, what's the point?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's way too soon. I think it's completely pointless. I don't get it. You can play The Last of Us Part 1 remaster on the PlayStation 5 right now. Like, why does this thing exist?
If they really wanted to do a marketing push, all they have to do is take that remaster, rebadge it, put it back out, because the original already pushed the PS3 to its limits, looked great on PS4, and even PS5 now, you put a 4K 60 patch on that, job done.
I mean, it just comes down to money. I think they will probably make the profit on it. Like, as much as I won't buy it, as much as I don't think it makes sense, there's probably a lot of people out there that will just go out and buy it hand over fist, no matter what, anyway. Like, I'm a huge fan of Last of Us Part 1. I think it's an amazing game. But it's, for me, even that is like 2013 to 2021. It's not really that long in the landscape of things, you know? I mean...
8 years used to be a much longer time in games.
Yeah. I mean, it takes 6 years from start to finish to make a game now. So, like, it's not been that long. it's way too soon in my opinion. But we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that could come down the pipe. We've got obviously a lot of other games which people are excited for. Like, people are hoping for a Grand Theft Auto 6 announcement. I don't think that's coming. I think it's way too soon. And if it is announced, then it's just going to be a tease at the very least. Yeah, it's just like there's only one team working over there, and they only work on one game at a time, pretty much. And Red Dead Redemption 2 was only a couple of years ago, so I think they've still got a good few years before that game is out.
So if they started Grand Theft Auto 6, it would have been after Red Dead shipped and
main production. I think pre-production has probably been happening for a while, but I think now it's the same thing when people expect stuff from the Elder Scrolls, like when they want the next Elder Scrolls game. It's like that game is years out. Like, we should stop expecting to see that thing before Starfield, you know, sort of thing. And Red Dead Redemption 2 is only just winding down off its sort of like final DLCs at the moment, so I think they're making way too much money on GTA 5 Online. That's why that was announced as a release title for the PlayStation 5. That's why, because people are still playing it. They're still like paying money hand over fist. That game is still in top 10 sales every single month. Like, it's still, people are still buying it. Like, why would you shoot yourself in the foot and make a second game when you can just keep bleeding money out of this first one and take your time on Grand Theft Auto 6? So I don't blame
wasn't
them.
There for release day either.
Yeah,
they said, oh, GTA Online day one, PS5 didn't happen. They've been giving us 1 million in-game per month since, until it comes out. But like, the most we might hear, I think, GTA wise, is there were rumors about a free Vice City and San Andreas.
I did hear about that
remaster.
Yeah.
And Take-Two have been going around and shutting down a lot of fan mod projects recently, so that could maybe happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right on that. it would not surprise me to see them show up as a package, at least, for Grand Theft Auto 3 on Vice City. On San Andreas. Was it just San Andreas and Vice City, or was it 3 as well? It was the trilogy, right?
Yeah, it was the trilogy.
Yeah,
which is weird because they, again, already sell the trilogy as PS2 classics with trophy support on PS4, which is playable on PS5.
Yeah. But, Sony does believe in generations, so, what can we expect?
It's the same rope again.
Yeah, that was a tough take. But yeah, we should probably wrap this up anyway. Sam, really appreciate you coming on, man. It's been good to catch up again.
Yeah, no, anytime.
Yeah, so where can people find you, man? What are you up to? So people know if they're interested into looking into whatever you're up to.
Twitter.com/SJ Webster Art. No, I'm not a social justice warrior. That just happens to be my initials. Comes up a lot.
Yeah.
If you want to see me talking way too much about Sonic, if you search Webster Sonic 2 on YouTube, I think like the first 6 results are me. So
cool. Awesome, man. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Hillthought Games. Yeah, I post concept art and some indie game stuff on there from time to time. I also complain about the world, as everyone does on Twitter, so it's all good. You can also find me on ArtStation. I am at Vin Hill Art, and you can find me and some of my concept art on there as well. But other than that, I think we're good.
Yeah.
So until next time, we'll definitely have you on again, Sam. Really appreciate you being here, man.
No, yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Cool. So until next time, everyone, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified whenever we do go live and bring a new episode out, which is normally every Sunday and Monday. Monday or Sunday, sorry, I should say. But yeah, please. Until then, we'll see you. So, ta-ta.